health warning this morning after eggs have caused illnesses and hospitalizations across the country.
A salmonella outbreak possibly linked to eggs that sickened at least 79 people in 7 states.
You reach for a carton of eggs. No second thoughts, no hesitation. Just a quiet trust in the packaging, in the store, the system. But what if that trust is misplaced? What if the pristine white shells hide more than yolk? What if inside that carton is a silent gamble? One that could risk your health without a single crack to warn you. The truth is, not all eggs are created equal, and not all stores treat them with the care they demand. Because behind those bright grocery lights, beneath the illusion of freshness, a quiet negligence festers. Some cartons sit unrefrigerated for hours. Others pass through warehouses where temperature checks are just suggestions. And some, well, they've been relabeled more than once. The danger doesn't scream at you. It doesn't smell rotten. It whispers. And by the time symptoms show, it's too late to trace the source. Too late to ask which store corner you trusted. You assume that because it's on the shelf, it's safe. But what if that shelf is part of the problem? What if your morning omelet was built on a lie? This isn't fear-mongering. This is fact. And once you see it, you'll never look at eggs or grocery stores the same way again. Stay with us, because this crack runs deep. Eggs seem simple, familiar, comforting. They sit quietly in your fridge, waiting to become breakfast or brunch or the thing that makes your cake rise just right. But behind that clean, smooth shell is something fragile, something far more dangerous than we're taught to believe. Because eggs are not just food, they're biological time bombs, sensitive to heat, to time, to touch. And when mishandled, they don't warn you with smell or color. They don't shout when they go bad. They just wait until they make their move. Most people don't realize that salmonella can live inside the egg, not just on the shell. That even a small crack, invisible to the eye, can turn a safe egg into a petri dish of bacteria. And that once contaminated, an egg doesn't always taste different. It doesn't always look suspicious. It passes under the radar, right onto your plate. And yet, grocery stores treat them like soda cans. Stacked, jostled, kept near warm lighting, shifted from pallet to pallet, and sometimes left in trucks, longer than they should. The truth? An egg is a living product, and it needs to be handled like one. But the modern food chain has turned it into just another SKU, just another profit margin. You trust the shell, you trust the store. But what you should be asking is, who's trusting your health? Because once you crack that egg, you're not just cooking, you're taking a risk. And most people have no idea. In the glossy aisles of Mega Supermarket A, everything feels clean, controlled, safe. But step beyond the shine, and you'll find a system that's anything but. Behind those automatic doors is a machine. Massive, fast, relentless. Thousands of eggs roll in every week, shipped from farms miles away and handled by workers juggling a dozen other tasks. And somewhere between delivery dock and dairy aisle, those eggs lose their place in line. Because rotation, the simple act of putting older cartons in front, is often forgotten, lost in the chaos. Overshadowed by quotas, by shelf resets, by the never-ending chase for profit. So the older eggs sit and sit until the date stamped on their side is no longer a suggestion, it's a warning. But that warning, it's buried under a bright sticker, one that says farm fresh or local or cage-free. Labels designed to distract, to soothe. And then there's the cooler, cramped, overloaded, sometimes left open just a bit too long. Temperatures rise, shells sweat, bacteria spread silently without a trace. No one talks about that part. No one tells you that your eggs might have traveled farther, sat longer, and warmed up more than they ever should have. Because the truth doesn't fit on a label. And Mega Supermarket A, they're not in the business of telling it. They're in the business of volume, of speed, of keeping shelves full, even if what's on them should have been tossed days ago. And your fridge becomes the final stop in a long, broken chain. Discount Grocery B is where you go for deals, bulk bins, off-brand items, prices that seem too good to be true. But when it comes to eggs, You get what you pay for. Walk down their cold section and you'll see it. Cartons stacked too high, tilted, sometimes already leaking. And above them, blazing fluorescent lights that never shut off. Lights that generate heat. Heat that eggs were never meant to withstand. Ask the staff if they're honest, and they'll tell you what happens. Boxes sit on the loading dock too long. Refrigeration units break and no one notices. Or worse, they do notice, but just move the cartons to the back and keep selling. The label doesn't change. The sell-by date still smiles back at you. But the inside of that egg, it's already breaking down. Proteins denature, yolks collapse. Bacteria wakes up, ready to spread. Discount grocery. B isn't just cutting costs, they're cutting corners, and the egg aisle is where the risk hides best. Because unlike bread or milk, an egg won't puff up or curdle when it's bad. It won't shout, "I've gone off." It'll just wait until it's too late. You might save $1 at the register, but you could pay for it in ways you never expected. A stomach that turns, a weekend ruined, a silent threat that came from behind a smiling price tag. At Discount Grocery B, nothing's truly cold, except the truth. Dollar stores were never meant to sell eggs, but now in Store C, they're stacked in fridges between frozen burritos and off-brand cheese slices. And for just $1 or $2, you can walk away with a dozen. Seems harmless, even smart, until you take a closer look. The cartons feel thin, flimsy. They bend under your grip, and sometimes you'll spot a crack, but sometimes you won't. The damage hides beneath the surface, waiting. These aren't premium eggs. They're leftovers, rejects from supply chains too long, too messy to trace. The sourcing? Unclear. You won't find a farm name, no tracking code. Just a label slapped on at a distribution center, designed to keep questions from forming in the first place. And the fridge? It hums, but not like it should. Temperature logs are rare, inspections even rarer. Cartons are shuffled in and out without any sense of rotation. Some get left on restock carts. Others sit out while employees wait for space. Eggs warming, cooling, warming again. A bacteria playground. What's worse? There's no accountability, no standards, no one checking the source, there's no one tracking freshness. It's all just cheap and quiet. But pathogens don't care how much you paid. They don't care that you were trying to stretch a budget. In Store C, eggs are just a novelty item. But in your home, they become a very real threat. Because behind that dollar deal is a cost you can't afford. At Big Box Warehouse D, everything is oversized. Massive carts, towering shelves, and eggs sold not by the dozen, but by the flat. 30 at a time. 50 if you're lucky. A deal too big to pass up, until you realize what's hiding underneath it. Because with bulk buying comes a new kind of deception. Long shelf life, printed boldly on the label like a promise. But eggs don't naturally last that long. Not unless they've been processed. Not unless they've already aged quietly. What most shoppers don't know is that many of these cartons are shipped at the end of their life cycle, passed over by other stores, rebranded, relabeled, and sold in bulk to unsuspecting families who think they're getting more for less. But more isn't always better, especially when it means more days in a warehouse, more time on pallets, more exposure to fluctuating temps, and inconsistent handling. One cracked shell in a flat of 30 can go unnoticed. One rotten egg hidden in the back of your fridge. Easily overlooked until the smell hits, or worse, until it doesn't. Big Box Warehouse D doesn't warn you. They don't tell you that their eggs aren't always first pick. They let the discount speak louder than the date, and trust you'll never look closely enough to question it. But when you buy in bulk, you're not just buying eggs, you're buying blind. And sometimes what's hidden in that cardboard tray should have never been sold at all. You walk into Organic Market E and everything feels elevated. Soft lighting, earth tones, a promise of purity in every aisle. And when you reach the egg section, it's not just a product, it's a performance. Brown shells, pasture-raised, words like ethical, sustainable, farm to table. The price? Almost double. But you pay it because safety feels worth the splurge. But here's the truth most won't say out loud. That premium label, it's not a force field. And those cozy displays, they might actually be making things worse. Because some of these eggs, they're kept in ambient wooden crates, away from true refrigeration. More aesthetic than practical. More about the brand than your health. Employees rotate them by hand, but they don't always check the dates. Some cartons slip through with expired stamps, or no date at all. And behind the counter, the same gloves used to stock meat are used to handle eggs. Cross-contamination in a place that preaches purity. But purity breaks easily, like a shell. Organic Market E sells an experience, a feeling. But feelings don't kill salmonella. They don't stop a warm egg from turning toxic. And they won't protect you if protocols are skipped behind the scenes. So while the branding whispers trust and the price screams quality, what you're really buying is a story. One that may not hold up under heat, because organic doesn't mean immune. And even the cleanest aisle can hide the dirtiest truth. Most people don't know the difference. Sell by, use by, best before. They all sound official, reassuring. But here's the chilling truth. Those dates, they're not regulated the way you think. Manufacturers use them like tools. Flexible, adjustable, designed more for inventory flow than consumer safety. And stores? They've learned how to game the system. Some eggs arrive already near their date. So what happens? A new sticker gets slapped on. Sometimes right over the old one. Sometimes with a slightly updated code. It's not illegal, because the original stamp is still somewhere underneath, just hidden. Hard to see, easy to ignore. That means what you thought was a fresh dozen could already be weeks old. Stored, handled, warmed, and now redated. Ready for one last sale. Even worse, there's no federal law that defines exactly what sell by means. Each brand decides for itself, and stores follow suit, creating a maze of labels that mislead on purpose. You think you're safe because you read the date, but that date was designed to keep you from asking deeper questions. How old is this egg really? Where was it stored before it got here? And who's benefiting from keeping me in the dark? The date code trap is subtle, but deadly. Because when bacteria doesn't care about ink on a label, you're the one left holding the carton. And the consequences. Eggs aren't like cereal. They don't tolerate fluctuation. They don't bounce back from heat. Once the shell warms past 45 degrees, bacteria can activate, silently, invisibly. And yet in store after store, that cold chain is broken. It starts at delivery. Eggs sit in a truck, doors open, sun blazing. No rush to unload, no urgency, just crates baking on the dock. Then they're rolled into the cooler. But is the cooler even at temp? Thermometers fogged up, calibration forgotten. 1 degree off, then 3. Now you're flirting with danger. Lights beam down 24/7, not just for aesthetics, but to sell you a feeling of freshness. What they don't tell you is those lights raise the ambient temperature, just enough to let pathogens multiply. Add the steady stream of customers, doors opening, cases warming, and little by little, heat that builds slowly, undetected, unchecked. And here's the kicker. Most stores don't track internal egg temps. They measure air temperature in the case, not the product itself. It's a loophole, and it's big enough for salmonella to slip right through. You won't feel it when you pick up the carton. You won't smell it, but the damage has already begun. Because once the cold chain fails, there's no going back. The shell doesn't stop the shift. It seals it in. And by the time those eggs reach your fridge, the countdown has already started. Only, you never heard the clock begin. Cross-contamination doesn't make a sound. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And by the time you hear it, it's already too late. In the back rooms of grocery stores, chaos lives behind the order. Pallets stacked high, crates rolled fast, and eggs, fragile, porous, forgotten in the shuffle. They sit next to leaking meat boxes. They're placed below dripping poultry, or packed beside produce carts, still wet from the floor. One wrong shelf, one careless hand. And bacteria travels, not just on the surface, but through the shell. Because here's what they don't teach you on the shopping floor. An eggshell isn't sealed armor. It's breathable, covered in pores, meaning anything on the outside can make its way inside. Salmonella, E. coli, contaminants you'll never see until you feel them. Many stores use shared coolers. They rotate products based on space, not safety. And when cartons arrive cracked, they aren't always tossed. Some are wiped clean, repacked, sold. No labels scream exposed, no signs warn compromised. Just neat rows and price tags. Meanwhile, the contamination spreads invisibly. The worker who unloaded beef now stocks your eggs. No glove change, no sanitation, just routine. But routine doesn't stop pathogens. It welcomes them. So when you open that carton at home, it may look safe. It may even smell fine. But the journey it took to reach your fridge might carry more than just breakfast. It might carry a threat you'll never trace until it's already inside you. Health inspector reports don't make the news. They sit quietly in databases. Dry, clinical, forgotten. But hidden in those pages are snapshots of chaos. Scenes you'd never imagine behind your favorite supermarket's smiling aisles. One report shows dozens of egg cartons, stored in a cooler reading 52 degrees. That's above the legal limit. But the manager waved it off, said the dial was just a little off. Another inspection revealed cracked eggs being sold as is. A thin layer of slime, a faint odor, still placed back on the shelf, still bought by someone like you. In another case, expired cartons had been rotated forward. The old trick. Move the oldest eggs to the front so they sell faster. Let the unsuspecting shopper grab what's closest, never thinking twice, never checking the code stamped on the side. Employees admit they're told to avoid tossing product. Profit margins matter more than protocol. One broken egg in a dozen? No problem, just wipe it, repack it, sell it. You'd think these violations would trigger alarms, but many of them are considered low risk. Not enough to shut down the store, not enough to make headlines, just enough to make you sick. And the worst part? You'll never see these reports. They won't hang them near the register, they won't warn you. But every time you open a carton without looking, you're gambling on trust. Trust that's been broken and quietly documented by people paid not to fix it, but to file it. They never thought they'd speak out. But silence doesn't sit well when you've seen what goes on behind those double doors. Former grocery staff, stockers, clerks, even managers share the same story again and again. Eggs ignored. Damaged cartons taped up and slipped back onto the shelf. Cracks hidden under flaps of cardboard. Expiration dates quietly stretched with a label gun. One former employee said it bluntly. If we tossed every questionable carton, we'd lose hundreds a day, so we didn't. There was pressure, not spoken directly, but it was there in every weekly briefing. Watch shrink, move product faster. Let nothing go to waste. Translation, keep it moving, even if it's not fresh, even if you wouldn't feed it to your own family. Another worker recalled a manager instructing them to mix cracked eggs from one carton with good eggs from another. Create one sellable dozen. No warning, no markdown, just deception, plain and simple. They knew it was wrong, but they also knew jobs were hard to come by. And questioning the system meant losing hours. Or worse, being replaced. The worst offenses weren't accidents. They were policy, unspoken but understood. The kind of shortcuts that build profits and break trust. These whistleblowers aren't looking for fame. They're just tired of pretending that every egg is safe. Because they've seen what happens when margins matter more than people. And they're hoping, maybe this time, someone's finally paying attention. Spotting safe eggs isn't about luck. It's about looking deeper, beyond the label, beyond the price. Start with the date code. It shouldn't just say, sell by. Look for the packed date dash, a 3-digit number representing the day of the year. The closer that number is to today, the fresher your eggs. Simple. But stores won't tell you that. Next, check the temperature, not the air. The eggs themselves. Use your hand. Are they cold to the touch? They should be. If they feel room temp, walk away. That case has failed you, then examine the carton. No dents, no smudged edges, no sticky residue. That's the first clue someone tampered with it. Now take a peek inside. Yes, open it. Check every egg. Are the shells clean, uncracked, uniform in size and color? Discoloration, small fractures, even moisture on the inside lid. These are all red flags. Don't ignore them. Also, how are they stacked? uniform rows, or haphazard piles. A well-managed store keeps things orderly. Sloppy stacking means rushed workers, poor rotation, and overlooked damage. And the most underrated clue? The seal on the carton. Many brands now use tamper-evident closures. If it's already open, someone's already decided for you. Buying eggs shouldn't feel like detective work, but when stores stop caring, you have to, because safety doesn't shout. It whispers, if you're willing to listen. And once you know what to look for, you'll never shop blindly again. Being a smart shopper isn't about paranoia. It's about pattern recognition, and when it comes to eggs, the patterns matter. Start with the date. Ignore best by. Ignore sell by. Look for the Julian date. That 3-digit code tells you the exact day of the year the eggs were packed. If today is day 210 and your eggs say 190, that's nearly 3 weeks old. Now ask yourself, is that really fresh? Next, pop the carton open. You're not being rude, you're being smart. Check each shell. No cracks, no stains, no odd textures or chalky film. A single damaged egg can infect the rest. And that's not a risk worth taking. Then, ask. Yes, talk to the staff. Ask how often they rotate stock. Ask where the eggs are stored at night. Ask if they have local farm options. If the employee can't answer, that tells you everything. And if you see eggs stored in the back, ask for those. They're likely fresher, less handled, less exposed. Finally, if you can, go local. Farmers market, co-op. Even a small organic shop with direct sourcing. The fewer hands your eggs pass through, the fewer chances for contamination. And fresher means safer, always. This checklist isn't a chore, it's a habit. And every time you use it, you reduce the risk. You outsmart the system. Because when stores cut corners, your vigilance is the last line of defense. And that makes you more than just a shopper. It makes you prepared. You thought grabbing a carton of eggs was simple? You thought the cold case meant safety. You trusted the date, the label, the store. But now, you know better. Behind every cracked shell, every relabeled carton, every quietly ignored inspection, there's a risk they never told you about. And the price isn't just a few spoiled breakfasts. It's your health, your family's safety, your right to truth. Because ignorance isn't bliss. It's business. But you don't have to play their game. Not anymore. If this video opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Send it to someone who shops without looking. Someone who still thinks organic means immune to corruption. Drop a comment below. Have you seen these red flags? Have you trusted a carton that turned out wrong? Your story matters because your voice is part of the fight. And if you're ready to go deeper, to peel back the next layer, hit that subscribe button now. We are Evil Food Secrets, and we're just getting started because they might control the food supply, but they don't control you. Not anymore. Turn on notifications, join the rebellion. Expose the truth. One egg at a time, one store at a time, one video at a time. We'll see you in the next one. Stay awake, stay hungry, and question everything.